Hi there, and welcome back to the Aging Grace podcast. My name is Andrew Blake, your host, and today we're talking about a stage of life that every woman's going to go through, yet so many feel so unprepared for: menopause and perimenopause. And I couldn't ask for a better guest to be guiding us through it today than Dr. Jen Zelovitzky, a leading women's health expert and menopause practitioner who's helping women not just to survive through this stage, but to thrive through it. And Dr. Jen, she has spent her career supporting women in navigating the physical, emotional, and lifestyle changes that come with perimenopause and menopause. From hot flashes and sleep struggles to weight gain, mood changes, and brain fog. She really has seen it all, and she's passionate about breaking the stigma and giving women real practical tools to manage it. In our conversation today, we're going to be talking about lifestyle strategies that you can make right now at home that are going to have the biggest impact on your health, and why menopause is more than just hot flashes, and how women can build strength, confidence, and resilience through this transition. And before we dive into today's conversation, I just want to quickly share I am launching my brand new group fitness program in late October, early November. It's designed to help you get stronger, move better, and feel in control of your health through every stage. Now, you can join the waitlist now at BlakeyBreakthrough.com. Again, BlakeyBreakthrough.com. So let's get into it. Here's the conversation with Dr. Jen Zelovitzky. Welcome, Dr. Jen.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I will say that, today we're going to be talking a lot about women's health and about menopause. And so I'm very, very happy that you're here to help me with it, because I know that I could not do this justice.
What do you mean? It's such a straightforward topic.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So easy, right? So easy.
Yeah.
If only it was. So Dr. Jen, when it comes to menopause, what are some of, the big misconceptions that you think are out there?
Yeah. So one major one is that it's just hot flashes. That's it. And this is, I think, what our mother's kind of generation was thinking. Second is that it doesn't start until you're in your 50s. Women being dismissed and being told it's too early. Third, that hormone therapy is dangerous.
Oh, that's a big one. Yeah, I've heard a lot.
Those are the big, I would say those are the big three among a sea of many.
Right. And I feel like we're going to dive into all three of those at some point in this conversation. I know we've got a ton of things to talk about today. But when it comes to menopause and women's health, you are a menopause practitioner, your doctor. What kind of pulled you into the area of really focusing and really kind of specializing and becoming an expert in the area of women's health and in menopause?
Well, even when I started out and I was doing family medicine, which was 10 years ago that I actually started, I always had a special interest in women's health. I mean, even in my training, something just drew me to, at the time, it was more reproductive health. So learning about STI management, contraception, IUDs, pap testing, all of those things, they really interested me. That's what I really loved talking about. And so in the early part of my practice, I was managing a family practice, which was much higher proportion of women than men in my practice, which is kind of natural when you're a female practitioner. And then on the side, I was doing some work at the Immigrant Women's Health Center in Toronto, where we were providing contraceptive and sexual health medicine to people who either didn't have a family doctor or who were refugees here in Canada. And it was really, really interesting way to learn even more and deepen my knowledge. Now, I never thought about menopause care until much later on, because we just don't learn about it in med school. So what drew me to specifically menopause and midlife care was an opportunity that I got as I was transitioning out of family medicine to work at Sunnybrook Hospital, helping to develop clinic for young gynecology oncology survivors. And so these were young women in their 20s, 30s, and 40s who were menopausal because of the life-saving treatment they had for their ovarian, uterine, or cervical cancer.
Right.
And I was very fortunate to get an educational grant, which allowed me to just learn as much as I could about menopause. I attended all the conferences. I signed up for every course I could get my hands on, and I got certified as a menopause practitioner.
Right.
And then I really just couldn't look away from it. I found my calling. Menopause medicine it's the most fulfilling area of care that I've ever practiced in. And so for me, this was all I wanted to do from that point on.
And I'm assuming with the type of work that you do, I mean, you probably see complete changes in people in terms of, this is like life-changing stuff, right? This isn't losing 5 pounds, which can also be life-changing as well. But I mean, this is a big area and a life-changing work, right?
Yeah. Not a week goes by that someone doesn't say this was a complete game changer. And there's really very few areas of medicine where you get told that so frequently. It's really fulfilling.
I think that, going off that, this is going to be a big episode today then. And I think that people are really going to, have some big takeaways from this. So this is going to be good. And so you mentioned that, you saw people even in their 20s and 30s that were going into menopause, which, blows my mind because again, this isn't my space. I'm looking forward today because I know you're going to teach me a lot as well. But so you said that 20s and 30s. So when it comes to menopause, when should people really be thinking about it, or when should it start to be on their mind? Because there's different areas of perimenopause and postmenopause. So how does that all...
For the average woman, let's talk about just the average woman out there, not special cases like someone who's gone through cancer treatment or who has their ovaries removed at an early age. The range is 45 to 55 for having that final period.
Okay.
So that's the menopause is
right.
Your final period. And so the perimenopause is the time around that and leading up to that, which can start up to 10 years before that. So really, you want to be thinking about it from 35 on, because it could really start any time after 35. It doesn't mean you're going to have your final period. The average age for that final period is 51, right? So 45 to 55 is your age range. 51 is probably a realistic goalpost for when that final period will happen. And everything after that is your postmenopausal lifespan.
Okay. So that's kind of how those different, not categories, but those different, I guess, milestones. And is that that's when those are.
So you only know you're in menopause when it's been a full year without a menstrual period. But technically, it is that final period that represents your menopause.
Right. And so these symptoms, I want to kind of touch on the symptoms or the different signs that somebody might be, starting perimenopause and then going, into that menopause. So what are kind of some of those signs? And let's start there because this is going to lead us into another part.
Yes. Okay. So the early signs that you might be entering perimenopause, a really classic one is changes in your menstrual periods. Typically, in the early part of perimenopause, you start to have some variation in when you get your periods. So it can be plus or minus 7 days from when you're expecting it. And that isn't just happening once because of, stress or a life event or something. It starts happening more consistently. But not all women have the change in periods as a first symptom. I often see women where sleep disruption is the first symptom, or even women who start having night sweats before their periods are really changing. There can be subtle changes that you may not recognize as perimenopause. So the more you can educate yourself around the huge variety of symptoms that come with perimenopause, the more you can kind of go, oh, I wonder if that's what this could be, right? And just at least start to have it in your mind's eye so that you can stay on top of things.
Right. As somebody who's working in the space with menopause and with all these different, again, I call them symptoms. Is that the right word for me to? Okay. So with all these,
absolutely.
Yeah. So with all these different symptoms that somebody might be experiencing, it sounds like there's a very wide range. How does that affect how you approach things? Because I guess with so many different symptoms, there's got to be, so many different approaches to help with that and to help manage that.
There is. And I mean, it's always important to rule out other possible medical concerns or disorders that might be leading to those same symptoms. In a way, perimenopause is a diagnosis of exclusion, meaning, we always want to make sure that there aren't other contributing factors like a clinical depression or a thyroid disorder, an iron deficiency, other things that can sometimes mimic the symptoms of perimenopause. And once we've sort of established that, we look at does it make sense that this woman could be in perimenopause? And with respect to the symptoms, we have estrogen receptors everywhere in our body, from our head to our toes, quite literally. And so the symptoms really run the gamut. We have more than, 30 or 40 symptoms that have now been associated with perimenopause, and each woman will have some combination of those symptoms if they have any at all. So just to name a few: brain fog, depression, anxiety, sleep disruption. We can have irritability, bone density loss, which isn't so much a symptom you feel, but it's something that becomes apparent on X-ray imaging, or maybe if you start having fractures that sort of shouldn't be happening from the movement that brought them on, something we call a fragility fracture. And then we have skin and hair changes. So some women find that they start shedding more hair. Many women find their skin is dry. Eye dryness can be a big one as well. Then we can have things like night sweats and hot flashes, very common. And it doesn't mean you necessarily have to sweat. That's another misperception, is that a hot flash means you had to sweat. Many women just feel a sensation of internal heat or discomfort without actually sweating, and that's okay. That still counts.
Yeah, interesting. So tons of different signs then.
I've seen tons and tons. I've seen everything from like tinnitus.
Yeah. Wow.
Frozen shoulder.
Oh, I've heard, you know what?
Joint and muscle pain.
Yeah. And you know what? Interestingly enough, there's a couple of clients that I work with who are getting the frozen shoulder. And this is something that I'm noticing a little bit more. And I don't know if it's because now I'm becoming more aware or what it is, but it seems like something that it's not uncommon.
No, it's not uncommon at all. And I wish I could lie and say hormone therapy is going to cure frozen shoulder. I know firsthand it doesn't. It takes a combination of treatment modalities to get at it, but it is associated with menopause. And look, there are many things we don't understand yet. You know, so yes, frozen shoulder tends to happen when estrogen levels decline, but it doesn't mean replacing the estrogen
is going to solve that.
Is going to solve it.
Yeah. Wow. Wild. And so when we were kind of going back and forth over email, we were kind of thinking of some different ideas to talk about today. And one of the ones that really kind of jumped out a little bit was kind of different lifestyle management techniques and how that helps to manage some of these symptoms. So do you have, a couple of different lifestyle management techniques that you kind of go right to and it's kind of like, these are going to help out for the most part?
Yeah, well, definitely. Number one for perimenopause and menopause is sleep. You have to tackle the sleep issue, and you have to get to the root of the cause for your sleep disruption. So if it is night sweats, you need to bring that to a doctor's attention and talk about whether menopause hormone therapy might be the answer for that.
Right.
If it is sleep apnea, if you are snoring, if you are gasping for breath in the middle of the night, waking up kind of like feeling like you stopped breathing,
right,
get a sleep study. You may have sleep apnea. And if it is difficulty falling asleep because of stress or anxiety, there are different modalities like cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, for example, that can be tremendously helpful in resolving that. So you do want to get to the root of that, because everything flows in perimenopause from the lack of sleep. Everything is made worse by the lack of sleep. When sleep goes out the window, that leads to more cognitive impairment later in life, worse cardiovascular outcomes. It can lead to more inflammation and less energy expenditure during the day because you're sitting more and you're going to accumulate more visceral fat. So there's so many different things that come downstream from the lack of sleep that we really need to tackle that. Second is we need to think differently about the way we move because of muscle mass. So the loss of muscle mass, which, starts in your mid-30s, we're so distracted in our mid-30s. Most women are thinking about anything but their muscle.
Yeah.
I know I was not thinking about it at all. Right now, people are starting to, and that's really encouraging and exciting. But we need to be, as young women, we need to be talking more about this, focusing more on strength over what the scale says.
Right.
Because that muscle mass is what's going to keep you, first of all, help you maintain your weight and reduce inflammatory cytokines and keep insulin resistance under control and all of those things as you go through menopause. But beyond that, that's what's going to keep you out of a nursing home when you're 70 or 80. So and what's the point in living through your perimenopause and getting all the help you can then just to land yourself in a nursing home at 70 and lose your independence? Yeah. So that's another really big one. And the third one of the pillars, but the third pillar I'll mention is nutrition. We have to start thinking of food as fuel, and you want fuel to be as clean and nutritious as possible. So many of us just eat whatever we can out of convenience, out of fatigue, out of cravings, out of frustration. And it's important to start framing how we look at food and nutrition really differently at this point in our lives.
Right. So between these three things, I'm not going to ask which one's most important because they're all vastly important.
Yeah.
But all of these things, if you're lacking in one area, that's still going to have it. But, say you're lacking one area, but the other two you're doing great in. Same thing, lacking in that one area, that's still going to have an effect on your symptoms and how you feel.
And they all go together, right? We know if we exercise, we sleep better and our mood is better. And if we eat clean, healthy food, we also have a better mood. We also sleep better. We have less irritability.
Right.
And if we sleep better, we're not craving as many sugary or fatty foods. And we have more energy to expend on moving our body. So you can't exist in a silo. They integrate with each other to create a really healthy lifestyle. And one more I'll share that, a brand new paper just came out from the International Menopause Society that was focused on lifestyle and in menopause. And one of the things that I read that I kind of knew intuitively, but hadn't really seen it expressed in writing before, was the importance of having good social connections and maintaining good social connections, because women who are not engaging socially and continuing to remain vibrant parts of their family and community also have worse health outcomes.
Right. True.
For menopause. So something we don't often think about, but don't give up on your friends, on your social life, on your family, on learning and doing and creating, because those things are also really important.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one because I feel like that's one that we don't always talk about. And I mean, it's interesting. This may be a little bit of a generalization, but I know that, when you look at, North American and, Canada, US, the way we approach social connections is very different than, other countries such as, some of the Spanish ones or some of the Portuguese or whatever it is, in that a lot of people it can get very lonely as well. And especially as people are getting older, not that 40 or 50 is old, it's definitely not. But, I notice even in my 30s, the amount of friends that I have is already less than when I'm in my 20s. And at this point, it's, I'm very okay with it because it's the quality of the friends now. As we age and as we get older, it can get quite difficult to meet new people as well.
Yeah, and we're living more in our screens. It's, I hope the pendulum swings back a little more the other way. I mean, something that strikes me as funny is the number of people you'll talk to who are just way too busy to call or to get back to you, but then they'll tell you 20 different Netflix series that you need to watch because they've watched all of them in the last month. And it's like, well, what are we spending our time doing, right? Like we're losing the connections in favor of screens and work, frankly. A lot of us are working too hard. When you talk about Europe and from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, they take a nice respectable break and the shops close and they go and have lunch with a friend or walk their dog or do something to connect socially.
Yeah, that's right.
Or sleep. Sure.
Yeah, I guess that's more the Spanish culture with I think they're the siestas, right?
Yes, exactly. When I was in Italy, though, I was really impressed. I was like, wow, as much as I want to look in that shop now, I really respect that the owner is sitting around the corner at a cafe with her friend and her dog and enjoying her afternoon, because we just don't value that in North American society.
That's right.
You're seen as lazy if you prioritize yourself.
Yeah. It's wild, isn't it?
It's wild. It's selfish, frankly. I don't want to not take care of myself and then depend on my kids to have to take care of me and rob them of their future. To me, that just seems like the ultimate selfish act.
Right. And it's funny you mention it like that, actually, because my mom, she's gotten into resistance training and into working out. And I was nudging her for a while. I kept nudging. I said, hey, Mom, you need to work out. It's important, yada, yada, yada. And I mean, I told her, it's a joke. I don't actually mean this, but I told her, I was like, you need to start working out because I don't want to have to take care of you when you're older. And, I think that kind of, clicked a piece a little bit.
Amazing. My 77-year-old, as we speak, my 77-year-old mother-in-law is at Pilates. I talked her into starting to do more resistance training, and she's doing it and she's loving it. And it's never too late.
That's right.
It's never, ever too late. You can start. I started in my 40s, just start. There's no point waiting. It's never going to be the right time.
And same thing, that's one of those pieces that, just like we talked about when we first started, it's one of those life-changing things that I think that my own personal kind of opinion is that, a lot of people, they get to their 40s and 50s and maybe they've never worked out before, And so they don't know how different it can feel when they have been doing working out and when they have been doing exercise, right? It's kind of like one of those things. It's like, you don't know what you don't know, right? But kind of bring it back a little bit. You talked about the sleep stuff. Actually, last week had Alana McGinn on here. So we went really deep on the sleep part. So if anybody's listening to this right now, check out that other episode as well. But I'm very interested in kind of the fitness part of things, right? Mm-hmm. And so I want to hear kind of your opinion on what do you think on how fitness changes or what sorts of modalities people should really be concentrating on when it comes to both managing the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause, but also just, overall health as a whole.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can tell you from an evidence-based perspective, when it comes to cardio, it is very important. So we hear it, we see a lot on social media about the resistance training, and then people just start doing that, right? But you have to be doing both. You need cardio and you need resistance training together. And the reason is they're complementary in terms of what they add to our health as women at midlife. So the cardio, that helps with cardiovascular and brain health. You want to get that blood pumping. You want to get that heart rate up. You want to be getting about 75 minutes of vigorous, meaning can't talk, can't sing, cardio a week, or 150 minutes of moderate, meaning you can talk, but you probably can't sing.
Right.
And the best type is high intensity interval training. So you want to be folding some of that in. And that seems intimidating to women, but I'll say, if you're just going for a walk really briskly for 30 seconds, and then normal pace for a minute, and then briskly for 30 seconds. So they're getting used to the concept.
Yeah.
That has been shown to be more metabolically friendly for women at midlife. And then you have the strength and resistance training, and you'll see it everywhere. Lift heavy, lift heavy, lift heavy. Lift heavy if you want to look like Stacey Sims. And hey, yeah. I'd love to. I'd love to look like that, right? It is not an all or nothing thing. Like, it is okay to use body weight. It is okay to use more reps with light weight, because the studies show it's pretty much equal.
Yeah.
2 to 3 sessions of about 30 to 60 minutes per week. And that is for muscle strength and bone strength, as well as some impact on your cardiovascular health and your metabolic health. Because, the more muscle you have, the higher your basal metabolic rate. And we want to do anything we can to influence our metabolic rate.
Right.
So with respect to bone health, it seems that cardio also impacts it to an extent, because anytime your feet are leaving the floor and landing back down, you're putting that stress on your bones that's necessary to help it build up and maintain your bone density. So it's all working in a complementary fashion to increase your health and thereby your lifespan. So it's all good.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned how it's not like an all or nothing, because I think that from my perspective, I see a lot of people posting on social media about how important it is to lift heavy. And of course, there's some great benefits that come with it. But I think that a lot of times I've also been seeing that it kind of neglects some of the intimidation that can come with starting to go to the gym and kind of the psychology aspect of it. Because yeah, sure, we want to look at the science, we want to look at the studies, the studies show, you lift heavy, that's really good for you, but same thing when you're first starting out, it can be really hard to, you get to the gym and you're lifting weight, and for somebody that might feel heavy, but even after 2 or 3 sessions, now that they've started to be like, you know what, yeah, it's heavy, but I can definitely do that. Maybe I can go a little bit heavier now, right? And there's such a starting component to working out. And I think that sometimes that on social media, we neglect to take that into consideration for the people that are starting out. What do you think?
Well, we're also more prone to injury at midlife. So all of this, almost like
almost
commanding people to just lift as heavy as you can. That's wonderful, but heavy is relative. 8 pounds felt extremely heavy to me when I was starting to work out. And women tend to get injured. And then what I see happening, speaking of all or nothing, is any setback, that's it. They stop moving.
You're like, I'm good. I'm not here to hurt myself. Yeah.
And we have to be adaptive. We have to be completely flexible in our thinking and adaptive in our approach. So one example is I had both of my shoulders, I had impingement for the better part of a year. And so my usual upper body workouts, I couldn't do them. I was lucky if I could do 2 pounds and just do a few bicep curls just to keep myself moving in whatever way I could. But planks, forget it. Couldn't do it for a year. And it was very humbling.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw firsthand how it feels to feel really limited and like disappointed that I couldn't do what in my mind's eye, my body should be able to do.
That's frustrating.
And so I pivoted. Well, what can I do? Well, I can do squats. I can do lunges. I can do some core work lying on my back.
Yep.
And so I just continued to do what I could as I moved through physiotherapy and pain relief strategies and all of the things I had to do to get myself back on track with my shoulders. So I think it's just really important to have that flexibility in our approach to exercise because we are going to face times that are more stressful where we won't have the luxury of an hour. Guess what? 10 minutes every day is 70 minutes a week.
Yep. Adds up. It adds up quick.
It really does. And start small. Don't let yourself be intimidated. Start with things that are fun that you can do. And you'll be surprised that what you'll be doing a year from now.
Yeah. Love that message. And before we move on to kind of talking about kind of the nutritional side of things, given that we're on the topic of recovery right now, how do you think recovery changes as women go through their 30s versus their 40s and 50s and as they're going through both, perimenopause and menopause?
I obviously think it becomes more important. There's a degree of stiffness that comes with perimenopause and menopause. We just don't feel like we can get up and go as quickly and as easily. Mm-hmm. Stretching is vital. I prioritize the stretching at the end of a workout and the warm up before a workout in a completely different way than I did, 10 years ago, where I could just kind of jump in and jump out a little bit and get on with my day. That really changes. So just taking the recovery days, mixing up your modalities, like do some Pilates, do some days of stretching. If your body is hurting, listen to it. Mm-hmm. Don't push yourself too hard because everything is shifting with our metabolism and the joints and muscles are vulnerable to the decline in estrogen. So it's just important to be mindful and start to take your recovery as seriously as you take your exercise.
Right. And so with the decline in estrogen, does it have any sort of implication or role on like connective tissue strength as well?
It does. It's funny because we don't completely understand all of the connections yet, but we know there are estrogen receptors in all of the body's sort of building blocks, right? So we know that the joints, the muscles, the tendon, the bones, obviously, the skeletal muscle, they all respond to estrogen. And so there are changes in all of our collagen production and in the inflammatory levels and even in the hyaluronic acid, right? Like the synovial fluid that bathes our joints, that all changes at the menopause transition. And the risk of osteoarthritis, which we kind of think of it loosely as like wear and tear arthritis. Like it's age-related arthritis that's really common. It increases with perimenopause. And for women, that can present first in the hands. It can be a telltale sign that you're in perimenopause if you start to feel some stiffness and pain in the joints of your hands and fingers.
Interesting. And all these different things that we're going to be talking about and that we have been talking about, these different kind of modalities we can use are different ways to help to either improve, or is it possible to kind of delay the onset of some of those different things like, the hand arthritis or anything like that?
I think the more active you are, that does your body good, right? Taking it seriously, avoiding repetitive use injuries, right? We want to be mindful of the things that we can be doing with our hands that are causing repetitive stress. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bodies don't...
You can't always avoid them, but when you can.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed over the years, the same thing. Our bodies just don't like doing the same thing all the time.
No, absolutely not. And you'll often see people who work on keyboards all day long or who use a mouse all day long, and they often present with really bad hand and wrist arthritis. And it's just that constant use, especially in their dominant hand.
Oh, right. Okay. So I guess that's one of the reasons why, I mean, same thing, another thing I've been seeing on social media a lot is even just the 2-minute get up breaks, once an hour or however long they recommend. I'm not sure exactly, but
I know. My watch tells me to, but it's always at the time when I can't.
Oh, really?
The Apple Watch, it'll say time to stand and I'll be right in the middle of something. And I'm like, I can't just, it's not the kind of work that I do. Like I can't just stand up and walk around right now. But but that idea, if you can, listen to your watch.
Right. I know.
And take breaks.
I had my Apple Watch, but I lost it jet skiing a while back. I haven't got a new one yet. I know. And I'm missing it so much. But I remember at the end of the day, it would be like, same thing, when there's days where you're seated a little bit more and it's like, yeah, you've stood up for, 2 out of 7 hours today. I'm just like, yeah, I get it. I'm not doing a great job. I need to be better.
We have to schedule movement into our day the way we schedule our meals, the way we schedule anything else that we prioritize.
I feel like same thing as we get older and everything. I mean, exercise becomes something that it's not optional even when we're younger. I mean, I still don't think it's optional, but as we get older, it's not something that you can approach willy-nilly. You need to be doing it if you want to age better and feel better and be able to do all the things that you want to do, right?
But look, it's really hard for women at midlife because they're at the crux of so many different demands on their time.
True.
You have maybe kids that are getting older, a household to manage, a job that might be very demanding.
It's a lot.
Partners, maybe you're going through a divorce, maybe you have aging parents. There's so many things going on that will always take priority over yourself and your own movement. I think at some point I just said, this isn't a dress rehearsal. I don't have another chance to take control of this. If I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. And it's definitely not going to be easier in a year or 2 years or 3 years. So I think for me, the turning point came during COVID. My health I had a few health challenges that were really surprising because you think you're invincible in your 30s, right? And then that hit and I had gained some weight like most of us did because it was the end of the world and we were stuck at home and life was just completely flipped on its head. And at the same time, I suddenly had more free time. I wasn't commuting anymore. Social activities were
gone,
non-existent. And I got in the habit of moving every day. And then like so many people, I sort of realized it made me feel really good. The mental benefits were really profound for me. And I was sleeping so much better. And very slowly, my health improved. And so I then saw the world kind of trying to go back to normal. And I decided that the one thing I was going to do was not give that up, find a way to make it non-negotiable. And I would actually give up other things before I would give up my workout.
Yeah, good for you. I feel like a lot of people can find some inspiration from that, right? I mean, it takes dedication. It takes saying no to some things. But, at the end of the day, it's one of those things that it's in your control, right? You decide what you can do and when it doesn't fit, right?
It's not easy. And look, some days it's 10 minutes, literally.
Yeah.
I try to move every day in some way. Sometimes it's a long walk with my dog and not a stop-start walk. He knows. It's like, do your business, and then we are walking.
Yeah.
This is meant to be exercise. Sometimes it's 10 minutes of light weights and arms before bed. Sometimes it's a long stretch, if that's really all the bandwidth I have. But when I do have the opportunity, that's when I'm doing my HIIT training and my strength training. And I don't belong to a gym. I do it all in my bedroom. So literally anyone can do this.
That's it. Whatever works, right? I mean, it looks different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we could talk for another couple of hours all about the fitness side of things. And yeah. So that's kind of, you mentioned one of the other things, the other ways of managing some of these symptoms that we talked about at the beginning was nutrition. So when it comes to nutrition and menopause or perimenopause and women's health in general, where does that fit in? And do you have a couple kind of key things that you would really recommend to people on getting started with optimizing their nutrition for their health?
Yes. So start to think about a few things. Eating predominantly plant-based.
Really?
Not entirely.
Okay.
But diets that are higher in plants outperform more kind of carnivore style diets when it comes to health outcomes, especially cardiovascular outcomes.
Right.
So within that, though, you do want to be optimizing protein. So this is where it can be tricky because there are sources of plant-based protein, but you can also incorporate lean forms of protein into your diet. But as I learned this weekend at the Canadian Menopause Society conference, we're not getting as much protein as women at midlife as we need.
Mm-hmm.
So women who are less than 65 need about 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day.
Oh, wow.
So that's around 100 grams of protein a day, which is roughly 30 grams per meal.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be tricky to achieve. It takes thought and planning.
Yeah, you need to be intentional with that. You're not going to hit that by accident.
Mm-mm. And that in conjunction with resistance training is very, very effective. And fiber is the other big one. We don't think enough about how much fiber we need. We need 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. So many of us, when we think about our nutrition, we think about it in a deprivation or punitive fashion. Like, I need to eat less of this, less of this. I'm like, you know what? Think about just focusing on what you need more of, and you'll automatically eat less of the other things. You'll automatically eat less sugar and less simple carbohydrate and, processed foods.
Right.
If you're focusing on, I want plant-based, non-processed protein and fiber.
So it's almost like when it kind of bringing this all together here. So it's almost like, for example, for lunches and dinners, it's almost like you're planning your meal. Okay, what are my veggies and what's that meal look like? Okay, great. I've got that. Now what's my protein with it? Is that kind of the approach that's kind of aligned with that?
Absolutely. I think that for so many women that I talk to, focusing on what they want more of is just such a nicer, healthier mindset to be in. We need to be friends with our bodies.
Right.
We spend so much of our lives as women just beating up on ourselves. What did the scale say today? Why are my pants tight? Maybe your pants are tight because you've been working out and you're developing your quads and your glutes. Let's not always, frame everything in such a negative fashion.
Mm-hmm.
We need to start thinking about how to fuel our mind and our body to be strong, not skinny.
Right.
And it's amazing how that philosophy changes how you look at yourself when you look in the mirror.
And I feel like in today's same thing with this kind of perspective, it's an area that I personally, as a guy, can't really not understand. That's not the right word. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for.
You're not a midlife perimenopausal woman?
Believe it or not, no. But there's so many kind of expectations and so many different things that are expected, from somebody, from a woman in all sorts of different age categories. I feel like it's different age categories, things that I'll never be able to relate to. But with that, it also changes somebody's relationship with their food. It changes their relationship with, their sleep. It changes the relationship with how they get started with fitness. And so it can be a lot for somebody and again, we keep saying that it can be a lot to start focusing on these things.
Yes. And I think we'd be remiss if we don't touch on alcohol as well.
Okay. So let's talk.
When we're talking about diet and we're talking about metabolism, so many women are surprised when I tell them that alcohol truly hits different at midlife than it does before that. And the reason is, our liver produces an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase that metabolizes the alcohol that we drink. And at the end of the day, alcohol is a carbohydrate.
Right.
It's a sugar. So at your age, Andrew, you can drink 2 glasses of wine at dinner. And by the time you go to bed, you've likely metabolized most of it, if not all of it.
Perfect.
For me, if I drink 2 glasses of wine at dinner, my liver is working really, really hard because that alcohol dehydrogenase has gotten a lot lazier. It's much less potent.
Gotcha.
So it can't metabolize that alcohol as efficiently. And my liver's working all night long. And then it says, okay, I've done what I can with this. At the end of the day, this is just a carbohydrate load that's just going to get stored in my body as fat. And so alcohol can sometimes be that missing link when women are like, I'm doing all the right things. I am eating the protein. I am lifting the weights. I am sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night. But they're still, in their kind of habit of maybe a glass of wine every night or 2 glasses of wine every night. And I hate to be the party pooper, but the new guidelines that came out in 2023 for alcohol use for both men and women of all ages stressed the health impacts of alcohol, that really no amount is safe. And if you want to be at the low risk end of the spectrum, you're best to stick to 2 or fewer servings of alcohol a week, with a serving of wine being 5 ounces, beer or coolers being 12 ounces, and spirits 1.5 ounces. It's hard. And when I talk to women about this, I do talk to them a little bit about portion control.
Right.
So if you want to enjoy a glass of wine with dinner with friends, maybe look at getting a smaller glass or sharing a glass with a friend, or just drink half.
Yep.
It's really hard. That is something that we really have to accept as a reality if we're going to optimize our health in the long run.
And it's interesting because, I mean, same thing with my own clients. It's one of those things where it's, if nothing changes, if you don't make any changes, nothing changes, right? And so, I mean, if you keep doing the same thing, then, you know, at some point you got to make some tweaks. And I mean, they're not always fun to make. They rarely are when it comes to our health, but it's that we need to make if you want to focus on, you know, your health, not just today, but in, you know, 10, 15 years down the road, right?
Exactly. I mean, we know alcohol increases the risk of not only heart disease, but many types of cancer. And so many women will worry about, you know, maybe that very tiny potential of hormone therapy increasing the risk of breast cancer, but alcohol will increase your risk of breast cancer tenfold over HRT. So it's our risk perception, I think, also has to change, because we're doing things that are truly harmful,
right,
without thinking twice about it.
Yeah. That's not to say, I mean, that's not you saying, hey, don't drink alcohol. It's, you know, you got to kind of pick and choose your moments a little bit, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's fun to go out, grab a drink with a friend, go out for drinks with, you know, your family, whatever it is. I mean, same thing. Now we're going back to the social connections thing. But I mean, it's one of those things you got to pick and choose, right?
Pick and choose. There are lots of ways to minimize your risk by, you know, like I said, reducing the amount of alcohol in the drink, enjoying some of the non-alcoholic beverages that are on the rise, because as people are understanding and learning more about this, there's been this amazing explosive growth in the non-alcoholic section of the menu, and maybe incorporating other activities into your social life. You know, maybe instead of going for a drink, go for a coffee, go for
a walk,
go for an ice cream, go for a walk,
pick up
do something different.
Yeah, I love that. And so with the nutrition stuff you mentioned, we talked about the alcohol stuff. We talked about kind of more of a little bit really focusing on your veggies. Is there a third one that you really like to talk about, or if somebody does those 2 things, that's a pretty big change in and of itself?
Those are pretty
strong,
big, impactful changes. We could touch on sort of the supplement aspect of nutrition.
Right.
Sorry, we could focus on the supplement aspect of nutrition.
So maybe why don't we dive into that just briefly here, and then I got a little bit of a fun way to kind of cap things off here. But so when it comes to supplements, what are kind of some of the big ones that are, you know, top of mind when it comes to women's health and menopause and perimenopause?
So vitamin D is essential. We don't get enough of it from the sun. We're too far north of the equator. So unfortunately, I see so many of my patients are deficient in vitamin D unless they're taking that supplement every day. And the amount will depend on your specific situation. So you can talk to your doctor. Magnesium is a fantastic one. It's a muscle relaxant. Our muscles are often deficient in magnesium as we go through the menopause transition and beyond. So it can be very useful, especially at bedtime, to help with sleep, with muscle tension, and reducing headaches. And then creatine actually has some good evidence for it, only if it's used in conjunction with strength training. So unfortunately, it's not going to build the muscle for you, but it can support your efforts to build muscle. And the recommended amount is 5 grams a day. And then I always recommend a B complex vitamin, because that is very important for carbohydrate metabolism. Our B vitamins tend to all trend down at midlife for both men and women. And so that B complex can be great for addressing any brain fog, but also just digestion. And the final one is to consider a probiotic. So the microbiome changes a lot at midlife and changes even more for women due to the decline in estrogen.
Okay.
So a daily probiotic, even if you have perfectly functioning bowels, as a preventative strategy, the microbiome, there truly is a mind-gut axis going on, right? And what affects our gut does affect our health and our brain, our immune function, our mood, our skin. So those are the ones that I take and that I recommend.
And so how does somebody know which one of these that they should take? Or is it one of those things where it's if you're going through perimenopause and menopause, it'll probably do you good. It's not going to hurt you kind of thing.
It's probably not going to hurt you. There are better and worse options for it. Unfortunately, the thing with supplements is they're not regulated by Health Canada. So I don't have these randomized controlled trials, at least not robust ones or numerous ones to go on that will say this was tested against this. It's sort of a bit of buyer beware. So what I usually recommend is look for brands that are tried and true, that have always been there, and try to find one that's NSF certified.
Okay.
Because that NSF certification means it's been put through a process where it's less likely to have contaminants.
Okay. Which is big. A lot of fillers in these different products, these different supplements, powder.
Exactly.
Okay.
So with respect to creatine, some can be more upsetting for the digestive tract. So you want to be mindful and read up a little bit about that. I know Stacey Sims has a lot of valuable information on her website about which types she recommends. And she's someone who's a sports physiologist, expert. So I trust her takeaway on that. But then you can always just go with those kind of parameters when you're shopping for a supplement.
Amazing. Okay, great advice. Now we're kind of approaching an hour here. So I always love to finish with this new thing I started for this season. So it's basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you out a claim or a claim related to menopause and women's health. The word on the street. And I want you to give me your BS rating. Okay. 10 meaning that it's complete BS. 1 meaning that it's actually pretty credible. Okay. And you can feel free to give an explanation on them or not. It's up to you. Okay. The first one is that it's too late to build muscle after menopause. Is that a 10 meaning that's BS? Is that a 1?
Oh, that's a 10. That's total BS. Look at Train with Joan on Instagram, and you will see someone who started in her 70s and is more buff than I will ever hope to be.
Amazing.
It's ever too late.
Okay. All right. Good one. Okay. Next one is, which I think I know the answer to this one after our conversation today, is that menopause is just hot flashes and weight gain. Is that 1, meaning it's credible, 10, that's complete BS too?
So I'm going to give it an 8 because for some women, that might be all they experience because it's so different for everybody.
Right. Okay. So it's an 8.
But the vast majority of women, it's many more symptoms than that.
Okay. Gotcha. And then the last one is that there's nothing you can do about perimenopause and menopause. You just have to suffer through it.
That's a 10.
That's a 10.
For BS.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Lifestyle measures are the cornerstone and anybody can do them. There's hormonal and non-hormonal options now that are available. It's a whole new world for menopause and perimenopause. You do not have to suffer.
Love that. And then if there's 1, 2, 3 takeaways, however many you want, if there's a big takeaway that you would want somebody to have after this conversation, what would that be?
To not feel despair if you've been turned away from, hormone therapy or that it's not an option for you. Because as we've been touching on today, lifestyle modifications are the cornerstone of managing your menopause transition. They are accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
And we are so fortunate to have so much great information available to women now that we didn't have before. The conversations are starting. The advice is there for the taking and free of charge all over the internet. And so even in the absence of hormone therapy, you can thrive through menopause.
Love that. Powerful message there. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Jen. I really, really enjoyed this. So much good stuff here. I learned a ton. I know that the people listening are going to learn a ton from this as well. So if people wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted to follow your stuff, how do they find you online? That's your Instagram at Dr. Jen Zelo.
Yeah, Dr. Jenzelo. I'm on YouTube and Instagram.
I love that. Well, you know what? If somebody's listening to this, whoever you are, give that a listen to. She spreads a ton of great information online, and it's all very, very good, high quality information. Thank you, Dr. Jen, for joining me today. I know our listeners are going to be walking away with a much clearer understanding of what menopause really is, and most importantly, what they can do to feel stronger and more in control during this transition, as well as knowing when they can, when they should be starting to think about it, right? And if you're ready to get started with the next step in your health and fitness journey, I want to remind you that my new group fitness program is launching at the end of October, beginning of November. This isn't about quick fixes. It's a 12-week program that is about building a foundation of strength, mobility, and confidence that carries you through midlife and beyond. With live weekly workouts, educational sessions to cut through the noise, and a community that's going to help to keep you accountable, this program will give you the structure you need to finally feel in control of your fitness and your health. Spots are limited, so make sure to sign up now on the wait list at BlakeyBreakthrough.com. Again, BlakeyBreakthrough.com. So thank you again for joining into the Aging Grace this week. I truly loved this conversation that we had with Dr. Jen. And if you enjoyed today's episode, share it with a friend or hit subscribe so that you never miss another episode. Again, I will see you next week, and you are not going to miss next week's episode. Till then, this is the Aging Grace.